good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another session of the Galen University podcast series, podcast number 7. And this evening, we want to talk about the new digital technology standards. The new digital technology standards. As you all know, today we are living and working in a global and a digital society that requires new knowledge, that requires new skills, and work processes representative of an innovative professional. Consequently, we need to acquire some new digital technology standards that will help us to better understand local and global issues and responsibilities in this evolving digital culture and exhibit legal and ethical behavior in our everyday and professional practices. To me, this means that we all must do at least 3 things. Namely, 1, we first have to clearly articulate in writing, I think, what these new technological, what these new digital technological standards are, very much like the way how the International Society for Technology in Education has done. 2, we have to then internalize these new technological standards and acquire the human capacity. Just internalizing it is great, but it is not going to help us unless we acquire the human capability that will allow us to demonstrate a strong understanding of technology, of the relevant concepts of systems, and most importantly, of the operations. And then 3, I think it means that we need to model and apply these new digital technology standards in our everyday life and enrich our professional practice at our workplace. So here this evening to discuss what these new digital technology skills are and how to acquire them and their usefulness in the workplace are the following guests: Mr. Juan Namis and his son Dominik Namis. And just to show you the power of this digital society that we're living in, they're in Houston, Texas. Not Houston, Austin, Texas. Juan Namis, as you know, is the owner and CEO of several digital technology companies in Belize and in the region now. His son, Dominik, works at Facebook. At Facebook, he described it as a small company's Facebook. Yet his portfolio alone oversees over 10 million clients. Dr. David Aguilar is a computer engineer and a software developer at Galen University. He is a member of the Faculty of Art, Science, and Technology there, and the coordinator of our computer science program there. And last but not least is Miss Stacy Tewes, right? And up-and-coming expert in educational technology, also at Galen University in the Faculty of Business and Entrepreneurship. Welcome, guests. Thank you very much for taking time out of your very busy schedule. I know Dr. Aguilar and Ms. Tewes are teaching. Dominik has 10 million people that he has to see about, right? And Mr. Namis have several businesses that he has to run. So thanks for taking time out to talk to us this afternoon. So we'd like to begin by asking our guests to take a minute, just 1 minute or so, to tell us a little bit more about yourself. And we want to start with the father and son couple, Juan Carlos Namis and his son, Dominik Namis. And then we'll ask Dr. Aguilar and then Miss Tewes.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Barrow. Thank you for the invitation. And we are always open to have this type of conversation and contribute to the development of Belize. My name is Juan Carlos Namis. I have worked in information technology in Belize for the last 32 years. First at the University College of Belize, and then I moved into the private sector. The first business was to create an internet domain registry that we call it .bz for the country to be able to operate in a global scale and to have the technology to be up to par with any other country in the world. And I think we have achieved that. The second company is eData, and that is a software development company that build customized systems and have products like human resources, payroll systems, and so forth, and also provide networking services, outsourcing to different companies in Belize, like Belize Billmore Plaza, Belize Chamber of Commerce, a few law firms, and at least 10 to 15 companies that perhaps they don't need an IT team, but we become the IT for those companies. That's what I do. I pass it on to Dominik.
Thank you, Dr. Barrow, for the invitation. My name is Dominik Namis. I was born and raised in Belmopan in Belize. I went to Our Lady of Guadalupe High School in Belmopan. And then 10 years ago, my family and I moved to the US. We're here in Austin, Texas, as you mentioned. So I did my degree in digital media management at St. Edward's University here in Austin, Texas. During my time at the university, I was lucky enough to get an internship with a company called Mozilla, the creator of the Firefox browser. A lot of you might be familiar with the Firefox browser. Through that internship, through networking, I ultimately landed a full-time job at Facebook, one of the largest corporations really in the world now. So I've been grateful for that opportunity. In my day job, I manage and advise small to medium businesses, anything from e-commerce to retail to apps, different types of small businesses. Over the course of the last 5 years now, I've been fortunate to contribute about $500 million, $500 million to Facebook's bottom line. The company being that big now, they bring in about 100 million in revenue every single day. But glad to have been a part of that rocket ship.
Well, thank you very much, Dominik and Juan Carlos. Dr. Aguilar?
Thank you for inviting me here. Yes, my name is Dr. David Aguilar. I hold a PhD in computer science and engineering from the University of South Florida in Tampa, Florida. I've taught at universities in Florida, in South Carolina, and for the past 12 years, I've been back home in Belize teaching at Galen University. The program in which I'm most involved has actually changed a bit over time, going from more or less an IT program to computer engineering. And then finally, based upon the needs of the country and my own background, it's now a pure computer science, bachelor's of science degree, which I believe is still unique in Belize. My research background involves artificial intelligence, mobile computing, as well as the psychology of human-computer interfaces. And so naturally, the concepts we're talking about today regarding standards of technological literacy and the way we use computers to solve our problems, that's of great personal importance to me. So I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you very, 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 very much, Dr. Aguilar. And Stacy, tell us a little bit more about you.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Barrow, Dr. Aguilar, Mr. Juan Carlos, and Dominik Namis. Sorry.
Namis.
Our Galen community watching on Facebook Live. My name is Stacy Tewes. I am an EDD candidate in teaching and learning in emerging technology, which is a new program. You might not be familiar. I have a concentration in instructional technology, and this is a degree program from the University of the West Indies. I am currently a new business lecturer in the Faculty of Business and Entrepreneurship. I also hold a TESOL certificate, and I've lived 11 years in Asia, in Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea. I've worked in the public and private sectors, and I've been teaching since 2007. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and I look forward to our conversation together.
Well, thank you all for that wonderful introduction. So let's get to the meat of this matter, because the program is not very long, deliberately so, because we don't want to lose our audience. I'd like to ask the first question to Dr. David Aguilar. David, as an expert and engineer in the field of digital technology, can you give us an overview of these new digital technology standards? Tell us what they are, and especially as it relates to the technology operations and all the underlying concepts that are involved in that.
That's a very broad topic and a very big question. I'll do my best. When you say standards, that can actually mean a bunch of different things within the field of technology. It can mean standards for creating digital devices. It can mean standards for communication the devices use. And it can also mean standards for the use and application. And that's probably the most relevant thing for us here in Belize, right? What are the standards of using them? How can we take advantage of the resources that we have, the stuff of the modern world, including software, including the internet? And, how can we use computers to solve our problems is basically what computer science as a field tries to answer. And from an educator's perspective, there's a critical concept we actually promote at Galen University called digital citizenship. And this is the idea that we're members of this new and changing global community. And if we're not learning and using the tools that are available for us, we'll be left behind. Just as a couple hundred years ago, the people who could read and write and learn how to use numbers, they had a big advantage over everybody else. And it's becoming that way kind of again, but within the electronic realm. So what was normal literacy a couple hundred years ago, that same kind of thing is happening now. If you don't know how to use a computer, if you don't know how to use the tools, then you'll be left behind, just sort of naturally. Of course, I could talk about this subject for hours, but I think if I were to identify maybe 3 keys, what our focus should be, I think they would be these. The first would be familiarity and comfort. And this requires incorporating technology into the classroom as early as possible. And I know that some teachers are hesitant about that because it can seem kind of strange giving a test to students who are staring at a screen. Obviously, they have access to the internet, they have their phones, they have their desktops and laptops, and we really need to be able to sort of take that into account and teach them how to use the internet as a research tool, how to filter the nonsense from the true information. That's how real research is done these days. That's how people do their work, with their work in one screen and the internet in another one. And I think we need to be able to acclimatize them to that environment because that's the real world now. So that's one, familiarity and comfort with the tools. The second one is, I think, appreciation. Especially at the secondary and tertiary levels, I think schools really need to have their finger on the pulse of the workplace. And that's not easy because even at the best of times, the field of technology is changing so fast. And I think with the COVID pandemic we're currently experiencing, that's really accelerated the time frame of where I think we're heading anyway. And so all forms of work these days involve computers either making it possible or making it better. And I think we have to adjust our skills and our values to account for that. It needs to be part of our educational philosophy. And so we need to examine our curriculums, our programs, what we're teaching in the classroom to make sure we're really preparing our students for the opportunities that will come their way in the next 5 to 10 years. So I would say familiarity and comfort, appreciation. And then the third thing is the drive for lifelong learning, because we can't predict as teachers what is going to be the reality of the world in 5 to 10 years from now. As I said, things are changing so fast. And so we need to just teach the students about current tools, like spell check from Microsoft Word and using spreadsheets to calculate values. But perhaps more important than that is the ethical and critical thinking applied to technology and use of it, so that when they leave our education institutions, when we no longer have a direct influence on them, they're inspired to think critically and ethically as they take that journey for themselves and keep learning into these realms of new services and products that we can't even predict at this point. So I think that those are probably 3 things I would emphasize when looking at the way that we use technology, both here in Belize and internationally.
Well, thank you very much. And just to highlight those three things again, Dr. Aguilar. One,
Okay, so
familiarity
and comfort.
Familiarity
Two, appreciation.
Two, appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
And then three, lifelong learning.
A drive for lifelong learning, yes. I think those are three very important things.
Now, one of the things that you talked about was the importance of this mindset and this toolkit, these digital technological tools for the world of work. And so I'd like to ask Juan Carlos and Dominik, right, as businessmen and people operating in the field of this digital technology, the business part of it. What are some of the job opportunities that currently exist for citizens with these digital technology skills? I know, Dominik, you just mentioned that you work for Facebook. So can you address that problem for me, Juan, and then Dominik?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sure. So I've had the opportunity to see Facebook grow and evolve throughout the years, and I've noticed different trends. One would be on the advertising side of things, whereby you have a business, right? If I have a business in Austin, Texas, perhaps 20 years ago, it was knocking door by door to get customers. It is no longer that way, right? To be a marketer, to be an advertiser means that if you're familiar with tools like Facebook, like Google, you can define who you want to be in your initial customer profile, right? Who is the type of customer you want to go after? Are they of a specific background in terms of education? Are they of a specific background in terms of wealth? Are they of a specific background in terms of political belief or what have you? With digital tools, you can go after that exact persona today. The second piece would be, so one, as a marketer advertiser. Two would be as a creator, right? I'm sure some of you have heard of this app called TikTok. And I think it started on Instagram, which Facebook owns, but it kind of spilled over into TikTok, creating videos that go viral, right? Mm-hmm. In the pandemic, we all had to sit home. We all had to work remotely. There are some people who took that as an opportunity. They started to create entertainment for others to consume, namely on TikTok. I don't know if you've heard, but some people have made millions, right? Quitting their day job and making videos on TikTok to entertain the masses. I don't know about you guys, but I've never made $1 million in a year. So to be able to not do a traditional 9-to-5, simply be a creator, put out entertainment and make millions of dollars. I think that's a skill, especially with the new generation, Gen Z, younger millennials. It's something that they can double down on in this age of virtual.
Yeah, if I might add to Mr. David Aguilar and Dominik, obviously I hire people. I have a company that is about like 20 of us, and they are people of my age, and they are the new millennium. So what I have noticed is that because internet and computers is something that came about in the 80s and in the 90s, I believe that there is a lot of gaps that need to be closed for a person to be efficient in the workplace. Everybody uses search engines, mainly Google, but not everybody have the same skills to do research. So this idea that David mentioned about our learning for life, even though people that have not been into a formal university, or even if you have been into a formal university, when we talk about the digital divide, before we could have considered that on rich people, poor people, big college, big school, small schools. Now with the internet and the research that we can do, if we do it properly, everybody have access to information. Now, I agree with David. You need to learn how to differentiate what is good information and what is not. Right? Before, all of us growing up, not in being out of the rich families, we didn't have access to all the encyclopedias and all the libraries. But I think if people, doesn't matter if you're in business, if you are into teaching, if you learn how to be a better researcher, you will be able to get a lot more knowledge on anything. And as we all know, knowledge is power. No? So bringing that gap of the tools that we're using and trying to teach it properly for people to be better researcher and to use more analytical skills is a value that is a tremendous value in the workplace. That's two of my points up there on those particular tools.
Thank you very much, Juan Carlos. Thank you very much, Dominik. They have been getting on this this almost recurring theme of education. And Stacy, that's your area, right? As an educational technology expert in the making. How are our teachers doing in acquiring the kind of digital technology skills that David and Juan Carlos talked about and that Dominik referred to? And how effective are they in modeling, showing the kids that they can do these things, and in developing the skills in these young people and adolescents and others in schools? How are our teachers doing?
Hello, good evening, everyone. As Mr. Juan Carlos had mentioned, the 21st century skills are very imminent and very important at this time. And I feel like our teachers, administrators, and other supporting professionals have been very agile and resilient in making the shift to digital transformation. And we do, even though, as you mentioned, we are still in the works with developing standards, there are many regional documents that we can refer to adapt and modify to our context. The first being UNESCO, and they produced a booklet entitled ICT Competency Framework for Teachers. And this document is aimed at helping countries to develop comprehensive national teacher ICT competency policies and standards. If you have you been following the Commonwealth of Learning webinar series? And they do.
Yes, I have.
It's great, isn't it? They've been doing many trainings for teachers and administrators all around the Caribbean. The OEC has developed a number of online learning instructional resources and platforms, including a digital library to aid teachers, students, and parents. The Commonwealth Telecommunications Organization restructured its training programs to aid member countries, not only in accessing the skills and competencies needed to further their digital transformation, but to promote successful execution and implementation of transformation initiatives. And although we're still on our way with coming up with standards of our own, we have been very progressive in coming up with at least a set of best practices. And it must be noted that information communication technology is a fundamental element, but it's only part of the solution needed to support the online delivery of content and the eventual digital transformation of the educational system. But what we need is a holistic approach with all stakeholders invested in the process. Definitely, as David had mentioned, the COVID-19 pandemic has fast-tracked our push towards digital transformation of its educational systems all around the Caribbean. With the we remember in 2020, everybody had to kind of scramble to try to figure out how to approach the radical shift towards digital transformation, and it was a very difficult period for students, for teachers, for administrators, for countries on a whole, and with the cessation of face-to-face content delivery in favor of online delivery. But now, 2 years later, I feel like we're kind of getting a handle on it. But this shift, rapid as it was, David also mentioned, revealed several very significant gaps, and he can tell you also about gaps in ICT infrastructure, and now we're seeing a rapid development of broadband all around the Caribbean to try to address some of the accessibility issues, but there's still a long way to go, especially across socioeconomic groups and between rural and urban areas in the region, and in some territories in regard to curricula and content with those curricula, students who have been out of school, and then of parents who are forced to work multiple jobs, and this had led to dropout rate increasing, and so there is a discrepancy of students who have support and do not have support, and it's really difficult for teachers to try to address these issues and to build the gap. And we will see the effects of this further down the road on the national level in terms of productivity, employment, and employability, and among youth in the fields of innovation and entrepreneurship. So, before the strategy involved giving laptops and giving tablets to students, but I don't really feel like this is enough. Laptops with broadband but without educational content suited to societal context is simply a tool for student serendipity, and the laptops in the classroom without teacher understanding of the technology and the teacher's capability to use as a pedagogical tool renders the device useless in the classroom context. So definitely there is much need for training in our region for our teachers. And it's not only the responsibility of the teachers, but all stakeholders involved across the entire educational ecosystem. So as teacher training improves the competencies in a virtual space, the creation of culturally appropriate content, innovative mechanisms for the marginalized and vulnerable communities, and challenges such as disability and poverty are addressed, then universal access to the internet connectivity and devices. These are many of the challenges that the Ministry of Education will face in the future, and we still have a long way to go.
Wow, I wish we had an hour or two, but we don't. So we'd like to cap the program off. It's a wonderful conversation with this question, and I'd like each one of you to take turns in answering it. What are two things that you think that we could do to, one, raise the level of awareness about the digital technology standards, these new digital technology standards that it seems to me is a prerequisite for everything that we do, including the type of jobs that we take. And if you could provide, and what do you think are ways that we could provide opportunities for more of our citizens to acquire and grow with this new technology? So one, how we can raise the awareness and how we can provide opportunities so that our citizens can acquire and grow with this new technology. Let's start with David.
Okay. Well, first, actually, I want to praise our school a little bit, Galen. You know, I think that whereas the transformation to online education has been difficult generally for the region, I think our university did a really good job of transitioning. I think that we were forward thinking. And so when it hit us, we were as prepared as we could have been for that. And so I think our students have benefited from that. So I think we did a pretty good job for that. Anyway, so yeah, two things. I think as a teacher, probably number one would be don't let them see the fear in your eyes, right? Don't shy away from technology, embrace it. Look at math, for example. A lot of students say or believe that they don't like math. And I think that those are some signals they got from their educators in some of their formative years, because math is supposed to be this hard subject that only the smart people can appreciate. I think we can't afford to make that mistake with technological subjects. So I think teachers need to really inspire confidence in their students and to embrace it for themselves as tools that they can use to improve their own jobs. That's number one. Number two, I think what we're doing here, exposing students to the kind of careers they can have in the digital world, giving them role models in the industry they can look up to for guidance. And I think that if we do those things, we'll see interest increasing.
Well, thank you, David. Juan Carlos and Dominik.
I agree with David. I look at it, how do we bring the level of awareness of technological tools is to make it obvious that the fact is that we are all living in a competitive environment. We are competing with each other in Belize for jobs. We need to see ourselves as Belizean citizens. We need to see ourselves as Caribbean citizens, and we need to see ourselves as global citizens. So if we want to contribute and be a global citizens, we need to have those particular skills, and we need to go back to the basic. We need to develop a curriculum that is integrated. We use email, but do we use email properly? We use video conferencing, but it's being used properly. Presentation skills people must have. The ability to use your mobile, that you are not anymore an employee from 8 to 12, 1 to 5, but you must be able to check email and check your calendar and check your tasks, wherever you are at. Those are some skills, that soft skills that you use in particular tools, but it need to be taught to the student and the new professional coming up. Then there is a competitive environment down there. We see in Belize right now, the business processing outsourcing is booming, giving opportunity to certain people that perhaps in the past were not able to join the workforce. But we could see that with some of the technological training that they have gotten, to be able to communicate online, to be able to provide customer support. There are thousands of people now getting jobs and opportunity and contributing to the economy of Belize. So to summarize it, as an employer, we need to take the curriculum, making sure that we integrate all these tools in the curriculum, especially research, especially project management, for the student to be able to understand that, and also to have internships. It is crucial for anybody that is studying any field to be able to go to the workplace and spend some time before they graduate and become a professional. So we encourage it by making people understand that it's a competitive world that we're living on, and we help by integrating all these different tools into the curriculum and give the opportunity to the student to become better at it.
Thank you. Yes, Dominik?
I think two things. One, access to internet. Two, teaching people how to fish. And let me explain what I mean by each of those. The first, access to internet, I believe, everyone should have access to the internet. It should be a basic tool, right? A basic utility like water, like electricity, like anything else. We should not have a divide between the haves and the have-nots for something as simple as access to the internet, especially in the developing world. In the US, there's more widespread access to the internet, but I know in the developing countries, it's still somewhat of a problem. The second point, in terms of teaching people, as I call it, how to fish, we need to teach people, like David alluded to, how to be curious, how to think for themselves, how to do research, like Juan Carlos was alluding to. I don't think we've instilled that curiosity in enough people. I'll give you an example, right? In my first 2 years at Facebook, they said, hey, this is your portfolio of clients. Here is 20 clients. Coach them, help them to become better at their jobs. But I was also teaching myself about the Facebook network, the Facebook marketing solutions, right? So they kind of threw me in the deep end and said, hey, go learn how to fish. They recognize a skill in me to problem solve, to critical think, but I had to sharpen those skills on the job. And just furthermore, the last thing on that, we need to realize that we live in a world now where everything is on the internet. I mean, everything. I feel like you could get the equivalent of an MBA just by watching YouTube videos. If you put enough time, dedication into it, you don't have to pay $100,000 at Harvard. You go on YouTube.
Well, thanks, Dominik. And finally, right, Miss Tewes, what is your 2 cents? Tell me.
Okay, let me share my 2 cents. So, the role of an educator, the role of a parent, the role of a business person is changing to adapt to the knowledge economy. We see power distance flattening, and I think that there's a reluctance there to give up control, to allow for students to have autonomy and control over their learning, to develop 21st century skills such as communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. And as David mentioned earlier, early intervention is key. I'm sure you've seen like young kids nowadays. Well, he's 5 now. My 5-year-old taught himself how to type because he wanted to put commands into Roblox. So, and as kids grow older, they need, as Mr. Namis mentioned about internships, collaboration with the business community, taking a very practical approach, more project-based learning, increase the diversity. As you know, this is Women's Month. We need more women in the field of entrepreneurship and business and STEM, tech. And so yes, keeping an open mind, I think, is the most important thing, and opening the minds and empowering our youths.
Well, Stacy, thank you. And you ended on a very high note. You were surrounded by 5 men, including our technical expert, our production expert, James, and you handled yourself very, very well. You remind me of the girls who were paddling for the Women of Belize over the past weekend for Galen. Only that now it's shedding some light on this digital technology skills that we all must have. I would like to thank, on behalf of our provost, Dr. Eve Aird, I would like to thank all of you for making this wonderful contribution this evening via this conversation. And we will have to do this again and spend more time on it. But thank you, and good night, Belize. We see you again next week, Thursday.
Night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Go Eagles.